ask me what's going on inside my head, I say nothing at all, I just need some rest. Cause conversations never help, so I'll keep them to myself. Cause what's going on is better left unsaid. Cause my heart hurts, you know I didn't mean to, but a broken heart is so contagious, and my mind can't keep dragging yours so deep into every fracture between us. You should run for cover, but you never leave my side. Always there to comfort, and it tears you up inside. But my heart hurts you, what the hell did I do? Cause a broken heart is so contagious. Don't know how long it'll take for this to fade, like lost under the waves I'm about to break. And I know that I'm the one to blame when you're holding up the weight. I'll be drowning without you. Leaves me feeling guilty when I'm not alright, cause I take you with me every time, and we're falling quickly with no end in sight. And I hate that it's all my fault, cause my heart hurts, you know I didn't mean to, but a broken heart is so contagious, and my mind can't keep dragging yours so deep into every fracture between us. You should run for cover, but you never leave my side. Always there to comfort, and it tears you up inside. But my heart hurts you, what the hell did I do? Cause a broken heart is so contagious.
Tired of gravity surrounding me. I feel the forces of my mind, but there's a fire in my heart. I wanna feel weightless again. My color glows, it echoes through your shadow. My embers glow. color glows, it echoes through your shadow. My embers glow like a wildfire racing through the night. Bring the dark into the light. 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 See the colors open up. We're love, we're love. See the colors open up. See the colors open up. Bring the dark into the light. Bring the dark into the light.
Welcome back, everybody, to the SCL. My name is Infernosis, joined by my good friend Mick, and we've got finally no longer Rocket League that I had to sub into yesterday, Mick. I'm here. I'm happy. It's Valorant. It's our prime time, the best part of the week, Valorant time. And we've got UAH White facing off against UAH Blue, so a bit of an intermediary rivalry here between their own university rosters. But that's not the only game we have coming up here today. Let's go and throw it up here for you guys. The schedule of everything coming up, like we mentioned, UAH Charger Blue versus the UAH Charger Whites facing off. And second game will be Niner Esports versus Clemson Orange. And that is two teams that are going 2-0 coming into this week. So this is hopefully going to be a really good matchup.
Yeah, I mean, both of them obviously are hoping to at least be somewhat of a good matchup, considering that we're getting a little bit of a civil war going on in this first matchup with just two teams, probably just practicing the same facility, screaming across the way. And that second one kind of screaming across state lines, making sure things are a little bit more definitive there, knowing that these two teams are kind of starting rosters for the university. And we're starting to kind of kick things into high gear. But just for this one specifically, I know that me more likely is to be ready for a day full of ascent, more than likely, knowing that map over and over again is what we're going to be seeing here over the course of the season. We're going to see teams get a lot more accustomed to that because, I mean, keep in mind the round pools. I mean, just knowing that these group stages, we're going to be seeing that map just and completely over and over and over again, knowing that you're kind of building up these kind of strategies in the back end for these other maps. Because keep in mind, when you get to best of threes, you're forced to whip out something else.
Yeah, I'm super excited for the end of the season when we start to see a little bit more action. We've seen a lot more action. We have a lot more understanding, not just us as casters in the booth having a lot more to talk about for these teams, but the teams having a lot more VODs, a lot more experience alongside some of these other rosters. Because it's our first season for SEL actually having Valorant. I know we've teased it a couple times prior, didn't really get it up off its bootstraps, so to say. We're finally into it. And yeah, you may have faced off in other leagues and other divisions, but this is a battle of the South, baby. This is the Southeast Conference, right? You gotta realize this is the Southeastern League. We're running this so you guys can fight off against each other, your brethren schools that are just a couple miles away. And for UAH, it's maybe just a couple feet away. Ethan, it'd be a pretty big loss, I would say, to not have the teams across from each other. We've seen the room. We've seen your esport booth. We've seen what you guys are doing. They've got to be across from each other. Those are like 2 feet of distance, Dallas, between those PCs, if even that. From keyboard to keyboard across from each other is maybe 2.5 feet. This would be the best chance possible to have that rivalry work between these teams, a little civil war like you mentioned. But UAH White is coming into this one. Unfortunately, they did face 2 losses to Georgia Tech White and to UKY Blue. UAH Blue got a little bit luckier. They did face a loss. They lost to UF Blue, but they did get a win. Unfortunately, it was to UKY Blue who beat UAH White, but it was from a DQ, so it wasn't from an actual match that came forward.
Yeah, a little bit of obviously discrepancies there, but I mean, not the biggest thing in the world. We can't really tell too much by that record, even regardless of what their stance was. If it would be just a double 0-2 or 2-0 or 1-1, doesn't really matter too much. We still are in the beginning stages of the season. Plus, this match, I mean, keep in mind these two universities when they face off against each other, these are the teams that see each other in scrims over and over again. If
Yeah.
something doesn't work out, or if they need some kind of fill in, if they need something to go ahead and substitute something else, and 9 times out of 10, knowing the collegiate scene, you're going to be finding your own university being that opponent you're facing over and over and over again. So, I mean, there's nobody who knows yourself just as well as you know yourself. And I mean, it feels like these two rosters, knowing they're kind of interchangeable at the end of the day, they're the ones substituting each other out. If something doesn't work inside of a match, if it gets another school, they're going to know their insides and outs. So they know that obviously there's going to be this kind of big game of rock, paper, scissors going on in every single round because, well, there is no real tricks to reveal when everybody's sleeves are being shared amongst each other.
Dallas, this is a big argument over on Twitter for a while. I don't know if you were tuning into that one or maybe you're just responding to something else on your Twitter feed. I don't know how far you were into the collegiate scene. But there's a big issue going on Twitter when it comes to schools scrimming. Do they need to scrim more often? Do they do to rework drills or anything of the sort? Because real collegiate sports do more drills, do more practices. They work in individual setups, while esports is pretty much entirely focused on 80% of the time for practice is scrim, scrim, scrim. And I think that's a big problem. Personally speaking, I think high value scrims are more important. For UAH, the Civil War, this is about the only time you'll see an intermediary, a single school scrimming each other, their other rosters, to be a true high value scrim, especially for a school that has both their roster sitting what I would assume to be, and you feel free to correct me here on this, Dallas, probably middle of the bracket here for the SEL. I don't think they're going to slay waters. I don't think they're going to do bad. I think they're going to sit very comfortably in the middle here for the SEL. Them facing off against each other in scrims aren't necessarily going to be considered a high value scrim. They face off against Auburn. They face off against UAB. Those would be scrims where, yeah, even if they take a loss in it, they're getting a lot of experience against really good players and teams that did exceptionally well in even the main stage land that happened previously. If you're facing your own roster, it may not be the best bet, but for a Civil War battle, you're facing that roster. All of those scrims are finally coming to full fruition. Now you get to see all that work come forward.
Yeah, it's all about that preparation. I mean, showing obviously definitively the primary team has to kind of go ahead and set that precedent, knowing that obviously we're the kind of the upper echelon, we're the ones who prepared a little bit more for this, or even then there's all kind of different ways that these schools like to go ahead and kind of value these players and see how their skill discrepancy actually translates to an in-game environment. Because a good IGL doesn't exactly have to be immortal. I mean, when everybody's sitting around a Senate 2 Radiant, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. It just comes into comms, team synergies, how these players interact with each other, and better yet, how they make their adjustments in game and really just kind of communicate those ideas to the fullest extent. So, obviously, when we're looking at UAH, I mean, they like to have some pride in their program, and I mean, rightfully so. But as we mentioned, when it comes around to the bigger scheme of this league specifically, I would say the upper half, definitely, in terms of like sitting in the middle. It depends on which roster we're really talking about here. But I think, quite frankly, that I mean, they do have some potential. Keep in mind their program. I mean, it seems like historically on the Rocket League side of things, they've always performed very well. So they obviously have some pride in themselves. I mean, and just in terms of winning in general, especially inside of this league. But I don't know if that really translates over games. So I'm intrigued to see what exactly is going to occur today, how these players are going to really just go ahead and hunker things down. Because, I mean, when you look at the map pool and what we're doing here, it's a little bit of a switch up because these two teams know each other. I think this could be one of the rare scenarios we don't have to see Ascent because they say, well, Ascent is one map that obviously everybody knows. We have scrimmed each other over and over again in every single map, probably even Sunset by this point in a multitude of times. And I mean, we're the most comfortable just kind of going somewhere else for the heck of it.
Honestly, on a new map steps into the pool, if you've got more than one team for your university, that is who you want to do the scrim against, right, Dallas? You're not showing anything to any other university. You want to be the first team that kind of puts your feet into the probably cold waters, right? You got to feel it, get a little bit more acclimated to that weather, and try to get comfortable with that map. Doing it with your own university means you're not really leaking strats. Yes, for UAH, it means you're going to be facing each other. So just ban that map, right? You're going to pay something that maybe your team's a little bit better on. You're going to know what they're a little bit weaker on. You're going to know their strategies here and forward. It's going to be a lot of these players really knowing what the other team is going to do. And this is where the individuals, I think, it's going to matter a little bit more, Dallas. The individual that realizes that fastest, that puts that into action, takes those thoughts, those ideas, and turns that into fighting words and just fights in the first place on this map and that map being Bind of all places, as Breeze was banned in the last one. I'm very sad to see that for you, Dallas. It's going to be the deciding for this, because it's not just going to be a battle of the better team. It's going to be the battle of the players that can take that little bit of knowledge that they have, or a lot of bit of knowledge if they scrim each other often, and putting that into the game here on Bind.
Yeah, and even, I mean, looking at Bind, this is one of those maps where you see those individual performances really just start to shine. I mean, considering that you have your requirements for a map like this, obviously Raze being there, Chamber kind of coming out of the limelight once more and kind of showing that presence here on this map, knowing how fast it is, you will see your duelists have to step up to the plate and do a lot more than anybody else. Sure, they're always the showcase, they're always the highlights, but I mean, here specifically with how fast the map has to move, your Sky has to be outstanding. Your Brim needs to know the defaults, and your duelists need to hit their shots. I mean, and once again, that's obviously myth. We hear that for every single map. Duelists, if they're not fragging, then why are you even showing up in the first place? Well, with the pacing of this map, Raze is going to be a requirement. These blast packs have to be just near perfect. But even then, I'm more so looking on the side of White. Well, we have a Neon being introduced as well. And this is the one kind of pick we have not seen on Bind before. I haven't seen this synergy. I'm curious to know what happens, because, I mean, keep in mind on Breeze, she's kind of a requirement. So I'm happy to see Breeze come back in the pool, because something has to supplement Fracture. Something has to have that spotlight for a Neon to really showcase herself. And maybe Bind, if UAH White really step up, this could be that spot.
I'm actually very impressed overall with UAH White's operator selection, agent selection here at this point, Dallas. It's very non-standard. It's a de facto play that maybe it's just what their team is comfortable with. Maybe it's just something that they find to be the most effective. I'm not too sure, but it's very different from the tried and true that you kind of anticipate from the map of Bind. Yeah, the Sky's standard. The Omen can be stepped in, but you really prefer that Viper. KJ can be swung in very well, but Cypher also swings into that one, though Chamber has been the better choice for a lot of teams recently, especially for teams like Auburn and UAB, UK wide, things like that. But it hasn't been working for them so far here in round one, but it is just the pistol. Can't say too much. The attack has fallen short on that initial play in through B. Both hookah players will fall. They'll swing the 3 players working in from B long through TP to A, and they do get that spike down now successfully on the A side. But it is a full 5 versus 3, quickly made to 2, with Chillers downing the Sky on the opposing side. Trapman joining in, leaving Sambot all by their lonesome, with a fall of their lonesome for a flawless round result coming out here for UAH Blue.
Yeah, good start here already from the likes of Blooming. Going ahead, picking off all those players are there towards that B side. You can see those exits just being crossed off there towards Hookah on that exit. But I mean, considering that even then for the rest of that round, you get this plant down, you get that money off the back end of it. That's the advantage on that attacking side of the map. You get that plant money over and over and over again. So that's why it's so important for Blue to really set a tone here off the get-go. Find these pistol rounds, especially on this defensive side. Find this way to kind of find these bonuses, these exits, and make sure to just get as much economy off the board as possible for White, considering they're going to be investing a little bit money for their economy and for their utility here early on. Knowing that Monolith still in that double duels kind of setup, you're supplementing some cheaper utility from what we've seen of the likes of a Headhunter, as you see on the side of Blue. But as long as you can find those trade-offs, make sure to really kind of make it worth it. It's not going to matter too much.
Quick swing in off the initial play here for UAH White. They realize they can have the gun disadvantage. They want to swing in as fast as possible. This is where that Neon and Monolith could swing in successfully, and they do find a nice pick up with the Commando. Trying to now step in for a little bit further. It's an equal 3-on-3, though UAH White have taken a big lick of damage when it comes towards their Sky. Gene the Clean is going to try to hide behind boxes. I don't know how they're still alive with the spray through that came from Trapman, but Chillers has no problem taking down 2 in a final third for a 3K in this round to secure UAH Blue a successful round 2 in more than just one way, having only dropped 2 of those purchase buys they went for.
Yeah, and Turd obviously with a really good start, make sure to kind of force out that fan and make sure to really get enough value out of that in the big scheme of things. But knowing the even thing, you kind of start in that same supplemented way. You don't get too much of an actual plant going down. A lot of players are being picked off in the meantime. In that second round, you're looking for 2 things. You're looking for a plant for the money, and you're looking for a default. You're looking for a pattern that you can start to exploit here, because that's the biggest thing that we're going to see these teams. It's all down to the micro, baby. You got to see, okay, what's different from scrims? Where are these players kind of putting themselves? Are they switching up on a round-around basis? Are they finding a default that really just starts to work for them, and they're looking to hunker down off the back of that? We really haven't seen too much of a real default yet, because those first 2 rounds are always somewhat of a toss-up, but you do see a lot of early B aggression coming out from Viper of all people in these first 3 rounds, which I gotta say is really interesting, but we'll see how it works out, because Gray could probably hold his own.
Gray's probably assuming that Snakebite can slow them down for the time being once the initial get-go comes out from UAH White. Once they sing, hey guys, we're singing into sight. that may be the perfect time to toss out those tank bites. One has already been sent out into the field. A second one now waits just in the back pockets. It does seem like UAH Blue are a little bit at their wits end to figure out how they need to slow this down. A huge dumpage of utility and pretty much everything that could be popped at any moment for that Viper avail. It's pretty much been utilized already. And for UAH White, even if they don't take this site and they use this little bit of a lackluster period where nothing's really going on and it's just a battle of wits and util to TP on over to A and fight there instead, they've won the battle. It'll be very difficult for UAH Blue to have the util needed to retake that A site. And it's just going to be those two players on that A objective that are going to be the biggest inhibitor if they decide to push there. But I think the go-ahead message has been said. UAH White want to go in fast, and Gray has not been removed from close cubby. 3 kills, the Spectre no less, denying UAH Blue, or sorry, UAH White from that push that was seemingly working so well in their favor, and all of those rifles fall into the hands of UAH Blue.
And I was thinking immediately, Artie, just kind of looking at Sam there towards Octagon, towards Tree, trying to look and see, okay, on this exit, on this entry, on the site, what exactly are you going to do? And that, you already saw it, the movement going through. You're not checking those strafes for spare bullets becoming your way, because you know a player's already going to be on site. You were looking for that angle to see, okay, as a player, can I see a gun barrel? Can I see kind of any inkling of an idea so I don't have to check that going as an entry into site? And running that Spectre out of Gray, you don't have a big enough gun to actually poke out. So you didn't reveal anything. You just didn't check that, which obviously just completely ended the round in a matter of a singular instance. But already sitting in the 3-0 start here for Blue, this is a really big monumentous just momentum for them. Just to start things off, to get themselves that big chance, that bonus going ahead and just supplementing everything for an entire arsenal, just carrying over for a first split off the round of back four. So, I mean, just over and over and over again, we're seeing Blue really hammering themselves down. We saw flawless on round 1. We may see a flawless on round 4 as well if they just keep this thing up.
Man, it's so difficult to utilize Chamber effectively with that rendezvous ever since the nerfs that hit them in the distance and range. You had players like Wardell who played so far out of it already when it was extended. A lot of players wanted to replicate that style of aggressiveness and play. Thankfully, we're seeing players play a lot more hampered in, close to the chest, so to say, with those. Works out for Chillers, but it doesn't seem to work out so far for Turf. They got their one and done kill over towards Shower, maybe over aggress too far. Can't pivot back in time. The double swing with the cheaper weapons for UAH White will in fact find a victim in this round, but it does still seem to be UAH Blue coming away with this one with the victory. Gray will play on the exit, does get one, and a second doomed to fall as Gene the Clean and Alpha have no chance against the rifle, the Vandal in the hands of Gray, and it is another round falling in favor for UAH Blue, who are dominating so far with a 4-0 start.
Yeah, pretty darn close. I mean, all things considered, I mean, kind of call the flawless or just one off. Not really worried about that at the end of the day, considering the majority of these guns are picked up for free regardless. So, I mean, you didn't invest the money. You can see that you're sitting fine and peachy. And even then, the UAHY just supplement one kill. That's outstanding considering that even their eco didn't even have a sheriff off the back of that. It was a bunch of ghosts and frenzy. So, I mean, the typical eco you're used to saying, we still have some one-shot potential. That was still out the window immediately. Wasn't even a question to be considered. But all things knowing, and all things playing out, we still have this stance, and we still have a very big read over here towards the B side of the map. A big switch up coming from that chamber over and over again now, playing towards that B side. You see the Viper now inside Hookah, and you see Sky playing the aggressor, looking for that easy flash and maybe a big swing coming out, knowing that, oh, there's a lot of players there. Do you find the first blood? No, it's White. Finally open up with a punch here.
Sambot needed to find the opening pick. We've highlighted that duelists tend to be one of the better and more important figures on this map, and it's been pretty much silence from the duelist tandem duo for UAH White. That does get changed here in this round, but the tertiary players, your Sky and your Omen, very important players, very important agents for taking control of an objective, are removed just as quickly. And now your unfortunate Rays is having to fall back. Nothing they can do about it. Sam's gonna have to pivot on over to the A side with the rest of the team with that Neon and that KJ you just had. Were kind of lying in wait, but it's falling apart at the seams, especially with the fact that Spike has still not been collected over on that B-long side. It is a 2 versus 4. Sambot just forced to hide within the smoke that was placed by Josiah. They do get the wide swing over. Turk forced into an uncomfortable 1v2, but a beautiful blast pack in and a beautiful blast pack back is their demise. One and done. It's a 2v2, and UAH White may just have a chance here in this round if it wasn't for Chillers with the Tour de Force. Down goes Sambot, in goes Monolith, and they did not check their corners once again. And UAH White will fall to UAH Blue inevitably by the end of that round for a 5-round spree for the Blue roster.
Yeah, forcing enough out on the rear end of that anyways. I mean, you see two of the ultimates being popped in the meantime there for blue, but I mean, it's just to make sure they lock themselves at a 5-0 start. So, I mean, regardless, you're fine with these trade-offs. You're investing in these ultimates earlier, making sure, okay, we're going to get enough by the end of this half regardless. There is 12 rounds to a half. We're not even halfway there yet, and we're already able to go ahead and get two of these ultimates out, and we know they're going to be supplemented again and again and again, especially when you look at the kill count for these players. I mean, 7-0 already for the top out of that chamber, kind of already showing what this can be capable of here for the rest of the game. But UAH White, they're the ones who are really obviously having to wake up, considering they're the ones that don't have any presence on the board yet. But more importantly, their ultimates are going to need a lot more. You're going to see them probably not even cast every single ultimate in this half, especially the Omen, because from the shadows is hard to read. But, I mean, knowing that it's going to be that much more valuable, I don't think it will be. That's something they need to really set up for. They're not taking ult point control pretty early on. And if you're dying just as much as they're killing, you're still able to get something off. At least 2 here in this half if you really make use of those.
And you got to make use of them quickly. It's a problem that plagues Collegiate Dallas. Not using the ultimates enough, holding on them for too long, waiting for the perfect moment instead of creating it. And I think your AH Blue, they've already popped and made use so far. We saw just last round that tour de force. They were working heavy with it. It worked out for Chillers. Chillers has obviously changed their positioning multiple times throughout the series as well. They initially played close side boxes in through A short. They then played closer to TP. They're changing up that style. They're making it very difficult for UAH White to really understand how Chillers is playing on that aggressive stance. And it's causing a lot of problems when it comes to A. They've had no problems defending A side. It's been B that's been tested so many times by UAH White, and yet they still haven't found a success they needed. Monolith gets one with the Ghost, manages to find a second, but everyone is tearing in. Your life is forfeit, buddy, and there goes Chillers to secure it. Nothing Monolith could truly do. An unfortunate spot for them, but it goes to UAH Blue once again for the 6-0.
Yeah, already just going ahead trying to see what you can really build up here. I mean, keep in mind that was an eco round the side of UAH White, but I mean, even in every single time they find themselves some kills, it comes down to the smaller things, the small victories that start to add up here. Problem is you have to supplement those. You have to make sure they culminate into an entire round, and we just have not seen that really occur yet. For a 6-0 start here for UAH Blue, unanswered on the board, and they've already found themselves a guaranteed even half no matter what. So, I mean, UAH White, typically in times like this, you find yourself looking for a timeout, maybe just slowing things down. I mean, typically teams have a big concern of saying, will this go ahead and give the opponent an opportunity to talk as well? They're not going to have nearly as much to talk about, keep in mind. When things are working out for them, they don't have to really make these adjustments because they're just fragging out. They have a player, a chamber more specifically, that has not died yet. That could be the first step. Problem is, if he's able to rendezvous and just kind of play this game however the heck he wants to, you're not really able to play the game out. As you can already see, once more, first blood on the way, and even then, a follow-up on the back of it. 3v5, 2v5, 1v5. You're going to see these countdowns happen a lot more if you don't see some time you take.
Yeah, I think a timeout is a pretty much necessity at this point. Monolith managed to scrape away 1 kill off the turret, but Josiah with that refrag back. Josiah now getting a total of 5 ult pips on the board. They managed to get another kill here in this round. They're the one player that really hasn't even had a chance to pop their ultimate. And I honestly was very impressed with the way they decided to pop the Viper's pin that last round. Not even on site where you kind of expected to go initially. In Octagon. Control Octagon, put 2 players inside and spray like crazy to lock them down. For UAH White, a timeout is a necessity here. You said it. We don't want to give the opposing side a chance to talk things through. Their talking would be guesswork. What are they going to change? What could they change? It's guesswork. You have tangible strategies that you need to do, things that could be proven instantly, and you're not making the right choice to get in there and make those changes. Fortunately, though, it does get them a first blood here in this round, but I think that's a double swing that does so, and it really is assisted by the fact that we did finally see a miss by Chillers, but Turret doesn't have that same luxury. They will hit, and Sambot will go down.
Yeah, it doesn't really find too much presence off the back of that. Can't really figure out what exactly is going on even in this entire composition. Keep in mind how fast it goes with these duelists. You don't have a Brimstone off the back of it. That's something we haven't really mentioned yet. This controller is an Omen. You have to throw those out one by one, and even then they're still not really up all that long. So considering that this composition, you're expected to go fast. You're expected to find these kills, be oppressive. You're still kind of waiting on UAH Blue to find this overextension, to find these kills. And, well, while the ego is definitely there in its 7-0 stance, the shots are there to follow as well, unfortunately.
Look at the patience from Josiah. Very trusting of this angle. Almost feels like at home for this lonely Brimstone sitting over inside of U-Haul. 2 players swing them. A third was almost coming in after the fact earlier in the round. Josiah holds their ground, and they are a slept on core player right now for UAH Blue. Very smooth positioning, very smooth crosshair placement, and it will now rise to an 8-0 start and possibly even conclusion at this rate for UAH Blue, as this white roster just has not found their feet out from underneath them, and they've had plenty of buys. The losers tally, the losers bonus has reached its peak a while ago. They are not struggling necessarily to have purchases on their board, but when they do, somehow they still find the same success with pistols that they're finding with rifles. That is a huge problem for UAH White, where you would think you'd have something to work with, and it still turns into the same nothing burger you had previously.
Well, now looking at kind of a different game here, you see a guy with an operator
Nice.
on the clean, able to go ahead and kind of clean things up. But I mean, knowing already with that operator, that's a very expensive endeavor. I mean, just keep in mind already knowing that 4700 is kind of going their way. You don't really have too much to work with, knowing the economy is already up in the air. That was just a really kind of weird decision to be made, because if you look at the buys, it was saying half armor, full armor. I don't know, but an operator will do something here so long as knowing that, well, maybe 8-0 kind of works in our favor. Somebody's going to overextend. They know they're hitting every single shot, but if they run into an operator, they'll never really expect that. So it's a very welcome surprise from the side of UAH White, but problem is they're also being surprised in their own regard. Turks making a little bit of a wraparound, kind of taking this control back through B long, and it's already found one, and the rest of the team starting to show up as well. But with the showstopper now off the back of this, I don't know how much you're really going to get knowing you're really dinged up. It's not going to be around, but if it's a clutch, I'm more than welcome to it, but I think UAH White kind of deserved it.
I think UAH White kind of realized where they are here as well. Perfect play. I think a lot of that round kind of got opened up for UAH White with the initial swing in with the boost pack coming out from Sambot. They actually cleared their corners. They turned over. They went to find Gray, who was sitting over towards Cubby. They initially missed them, and I would love to see the replay for that. They swing in the air. They do another double take to lap back around, like a 390-degree turn to get over there again, to then steady their feet in the ground and take the shot needed while they were still blind. It was a bit unlucky for UAH Blue to have that blind be in full effect and really cause problems for their defense there. But I think a lot of that also came down to Chillers was pretty much just using a shorty for that entire round, which was interesting to see. They were firing that at a huge range. Not sure why they were opting to do so, but it's a win for UAH White, and I'm sure they're happy they're getting their name on the board. The issue is you can't grow complacent here. It's just a single round of the 8 that Blue are rocking at this time, and you're already down into a 4v5 with a great play in through showers for UAH Blue in the aggressive.
It's not really just us kind of hoping they found some more rounds. Obviously, them and the comms are not really saying, all right, good round. You know, they're saying good start. We're keeping things rolling. We want to make sure we kind of capitalize off the back of this. Sure, they're going to have more purchases to work with again and again and again. But let's see if we can do something here. Boombot already given up some information. We have the ultimates now. We haven't really invested too much. Let's capitalize on this. Let's find some presence. Let's open up this map. Problem is, you're just not really going to do it with the ace out when you've already lost 2 of your very big initiating pieces.
I love that play in showers from UAH Blue right there. Bait out Chillers, let them play super far forward, swing turret in immediately after the fact to take down Sambot. If you know you're stuck in a 1v1 and they have the better positioning, bring in a secondary player, throw a shocker into the board. It's like you're playing a game of checkers and somebody throws in a queen and they change how their pieces move. It's perfect from Blue. And speaking of that perfection, Gray on that piece side, locking it down by their lonesome. Their only cohort having just been felled. And they'll get the job done. LMG and Tel with 2 frags to close out that round for UAH Blue. Now going to 9-1. They could go 11-1 at halftime here, Dallas. That's how dominant they have been here against UAH White.
Yeah, and it's one of those kind of double-edged factors there. I mean, keep in mind that I'm not only on that side of the map where you're seeing bringing that backup player, it's because of 2 things there. Because you already keep it, obviously, the freedom of mind here from the side of UAH Blue, knowing they keep themselves at an 8-0 start. But knowing that even then, that you don't have a Brimstone on the attacking side. They're not playing super oppressive. They're not playing as fast as they need to be. So you can take all the time in the world to go fight that inside showers, and then I can back up back to site and still be ready for the push coming through, because they're not going to go ahead and capitalize off of this fact, even though they have the double duelists and all the time in the world to make that happen. So, you know, there's a lot of things that aren't come out of the course of this game, but even then, obviously, when we see surprises, one of those are going to be a classic beating out Noted.
It's shocking, but it's not something that's too foreign for UAH White. Like I mentioned, a lot of those rounds, they've been finding the same success with pistols that they were finding with the mainstay rifles. They were finally getting into their appropriate hands. It's something you can't let happen, but it's something that honestly, if you're able to get good kills in an eco round, it's good for the team. You just need to match and beat that score with proper rifles. Doing well here in this round so far, an equal 3 versus 3. Sandbot will pivot in through back hall. The dark cover dissipates. They needed to be around that corner of elbow a little bit quicker, and unfortunately because of that, Chillers and Turt had a great line of sight to deal with that player, and it becomes an onslaught of a flurry, so to say, of players bum rushing down Alpha. They get away with one, but a second will elude them. Miles, she's stuck here in a 1v1, takes down Josiah. It's about as good as you can ask for. Chillers is sticking it, still stuck on the time. The perfect stack up for Chillers, and they'll rotate away. Mile had no chance to fight against that one, and it's a sneak and stolen round for UAH Blue.
Yeah, just another round to go here in this half. I mean, and we're already seeing 10-2 guaranteed regardless here for UAH Blue. But an 8-0 start, I mean, you're kind of hoping UAH White find a little bit more there. You're expecting at least 3. I mean, considering that that's kind of the default standard, but all things considered, I mean, 10-2 is very much deserved by UAH Blue after that massive amount of rounds they found just right off the get-go. Knowing that even in the triple stack towards B once more, they're up for that 3-2 split, which always just kind of works out for them. And even then, they're going to be trying to hold down this A set with the double player. So I'm excited to see finally, when we look for a very fast approach, go ahead, burst out and decide how does it work out for them. Well, they got to find a blood, but they also got to find the spike on site instead of taking the U-Haul.
Yeah, that's a bit of a shocker coming out from Sandbot. Thankfully, the second duelist swings in very quickly, sliding their way in for the kill, and Josiah and recollecting that spike. There goes the showstopper out for Turt. Unfortunately, does not find its target at the other end. And interestingly enough, was that the Tasmanian Tiger getting a final blow coming out here for the side of UAH Blue? Trapman with a shocker kill, to say the least. The spike was initially going down for UAH White after it had been collected. It has been short-lived for that small success. They're now forced to wait things out and look for a freebie kill. If it wasn't for the fact this Viper's pit keeping the team at bay, maybe UAH White should have brought a Viper of their own. With this being the last round of this half, UAH White are desperate for a chance at a kill here. A wild spray in from Alpha. Trapman goes down, perfectly placed. But inside itself, Gene the Clean needs to get that spike, and they need to make a choice now. They'll swing through TP, rush to the B side, and it will be a hectic run for UAH Blue to try to clap back in. They get damage in from the flank, and Alpha stealing away a kill, leaving Gray in a 1v1 slow field, perfectly timed, keeping them away, and Gene the Clean will put down that spike and force the time constraints in the lap of Gray B2 instead. The Seeker even tagging them. Use everything you have. It's the last and final round. No chances on the board, as Gray has to make as little noise as possible. Doesn't want to be caught with their pants down, their legs still not on the ground. They'll make the slow swing back the other way. They don't know where they're lying in wait. No audio has been given, but Gray is playing as slow as they possibly can. Spike's been confirmed inside tube, and they'll confirm the kill through it as well. 11-1 will be your score at halftime as UAH Blue's Gray B2 swings in for a clutch win for UAH Blue.
Yeah, just a huge half that we just see coming out from UAH Blue. Obviously, just knowing kind of what they're made of here, knowing their places in terms of rosters here, knowing that obviously there's one primary, there's one secondary. We're going to keep that hierarchy in check. But all things considered, off the back of that, you got to look at what this team's done. Not just fragging every single department, but knowing the composition for this map, kind of holding that thing out, showing that there's a reason, there's a meta in this game, and we're going to play exactly by that. This is the composition we've seen on professional levels and T2 levels, T3, all the way down to collegiate, all the way down to maybe high school, if we even see this kind of league start to carry out and see more and more of this map, because it's just the tried and true. It works, and it covers so darn much, but even then, you see the players making great reads. Gray in that scenario, you see all the utility being flooded out towards Gray there in hookah, but already you know that the Seeker gave you the information. You don't need to go for the flash. You don't need to go for the aggression. You know that Gray is playing for the long here because all the calls in the world have been made to say this man is lit. He is one shot. All you have to do is just make sure not to be close enough for that pan to one hit.
Josiah quickly in, needs to fight into their own old proving grounds. The backside of U-Haul. Mile, though, great connection for one. Unfortunately, can't find the second. And Trapman will go through for the cleanup kill. Two for their own on site. The frenzy is tearing apart UAH White. This would have been the best possible round for UAH White to get their feet on the board and start to maybe clap some rounds under their belt. But UAH Blue have maybe stolen the possibility of that thunder. One coming from back metal. Another one swinging in center of sight. Chillers, though, with with the Ghost up on boxes and short A, deals with Alpha quickly, and it's just Monolith all by their lonesome. I think this is just a scenario where you say a tactical timeout in full effect. You have no chance to rotate around. Time is not on your side. It's just buy some time and talk things through, because that 12th round is coming for UAH Blue, and it hits as the bell rings true. This looks like a 13-1 in all effect here, Dallas, because UAH don't have the money to buy up as effectively as UAH Blue will have.
Not only just off that, I mean, keep in mind, you do see forces in scenarios like this. If it's a 10-2, 9-3, even sometimes you're seeing forces come out from these players or these teams that are kind of at a deficit. So they do have a little bit for, you know, the weapons and the armor off the back of that. Not really, obviously, the ideal armor or weapons that you would want, but I mean, it's what you can afford. They're taking a big hit in utility for this stuff because they're not on the attacking side. They don't have the bomb plant to work with. They're just trying to work with whatever that is given to them. It is not going to be very much, quite frankly, but still looking for some early aggression off the back of that Bucky. Not really going to do much out of that, and even then, not even the first blitz round.
The quick rush in, though, from UAH Blue. They're trying to end this game as quick as it started. Josiah onto Gene. The clean does fall to the hands of Alpha, but Gray's still on the board, taking down yet another of the opposition for UAH White. There'll be a slow play in, one in from Heaven, one from Metal. As Alpha tries to swing in slowly, Chillers has the draw, but just doesn't hit it in time. An uncharacteristic loss for that duel. That it doesn't really spell good so far for Alpha. Even though they're decayed down to 1, they were at 3 HP before that. It's a snake bite to finish it. Monolith with 13 HP. It's quickly dropped to 0 as big clutch play from Gray B2, who has been a very solid figure for UAH Blue in this series so far here, Dallas. Who wants to close things out for them? That is a dominating victory, a very quick victory from the Blue roster.
Yeah, I mean, showing, obviously, as I mentioned, keeping that hierarchy in check. I mean, there's a primary and a secondary for a reason. Obviously, UAH has done a very good job of kind of supplementing those players and allocating to the right spots because, well, I mean, the way they just kind of played showed exactly what they're made of. I mean, if that game was a lot closer, you're saying, obviously, there could be some adjustments to be made here if these players are kind of fragging on the same level. It's impressive in its own right, but saying maybe we could switch some things up, maybe make this team that much more of a powerful force to kind of go ahead and face off against these other schools, because that's what really matters at the end of the day. But in a matchup like this, 13-1, I mean, it's not something you can really brush off. Keep in mind, I mean, these are the scrims, as we mentioned, that you're seeing over and over again. These players are supplementing as substitutes. These are the teams that are supposed to know the most about each other, and even at the end of the day, I'll admit, knowing didn't really matter all that much. Hitting your shots was really what all it came down to, and you saw a much more just amount of gravity coming from the side of the Blue roster in that exact regard. I mean, as they were hitting absolutely every single necessary shot, and even more so, starting on the defensive side, I want to see that composition change maybe from White. I haven't really seen it in the past. I haven't seen what they're made of there. Maybe it's worked in the past, but problem is when you're going for that fast and aggression, they didn't fit the gameplay. They didn't fit the pace that they needed for a composition like that. And more importantly, the controllers off the back of it. A Neon works well with a Brimstone because, well, keep in mind that stem, it doesn't speed you up anymore when you're running, but that slide, turning any assault rifle, whenever you're sliding into an SMG, really helps out a lot. Or even then, maybe kind of having those smokes off the back of the wall, having an Omen there against the likes of a Viper and a Brimstone, you're just kind of choking yourself up and you're really suffocating your own team at the end of the day.
I love seeing changes for compositions, trying something new, but sometimes the standard is the standard for a reason. I think we just see that unfortunately bear true for the UAH wide side. Hierarchy, whether or not that's going to hold true for other maps, I have to assume it will. You do like to see a B team at least put up a really good game against their A team, so that the A team is then forced to question, oh gosh, do we have the best players that we possibly could on this roster? Are we going to have to start making some changes, subbing a couple of these players, try something new? I know Auburn had a big question for that for a while. Houston was doing that for years, Dallas, in the top of the Valorant scene of changing out players. There's 7 rosters. Now Fisher's joining in with 4 of their own and having to change things here and there. It's a big thing in the collegiate scene, but UAH White and UAH Blue, I think they're comfy. They know what they're doing. They've got their best 5 players, and I think they're going to need to rub off a lot of that knowledge on UAH White. And I think in the scrims and just watching them buttering alongside each other, they're in close proximity to that UAH campus, a nice campus. They can talk things through, and they can really help that team. It's all part of the same program, folks. You got to work in to make sure that program gets elevated to the next level. I know UAH is doing everything they possibly can to get there, with great leadership at the top of it. But speaking of that leadership, the leadership are in our ear telling us we're going to go ahead and send to a break in between game 1 and 2, since game 1 ended so quickly. We'll go ahead and take a break, and maybe a little bit longer than anticipated, but make sure you guys stay tuned because we've got a great series coming up with Clemson facing off against Niner Esports.
to know what you knew. Restless every time we start locking eyes. Lost control. Oh, it's paradise with honesty, but I'm in the dead of the night. Let the darkness take control. Let the darkness take control. Darkness take control. May the darkness take control. Take me in the smoke, breathe me in and let me go. Sink to your heart to find you. Open up your eyes till you're blinded by the lies, so you can see what you do. Restless every time we start locking eyes. Lost control. Oh, it's paradise with honesty, but I'm in the dead of the night. Teardrops on the floor. The pain is over. Feel the darkness take control. Darkness take control. I'm standing on the edge of a cliff. Realize there must be more to life than this. Reaching for the stars, traveling so far, like a dragonfly. Just grab my hand from heaven's end. With me tonight, I run away. We'll never forget the past, but what counts is our brand new start. Even if it hurts me or I get scared, just come take this risk now. We'll be prepared. I run away. I run away. Reaching for the stars, traveling so far, like a dragonfly. Keep your secrets there, keep them everywhere. Just you and I run away. I run away. I run away. Forever in your heartbeat. Forever in your heartbeat. I can hear your heart. Forever in your heartbeat.
Welcome back, everybody, to more SEL action. My goodness, I'm choking up here, Dallas, over all the excitement I've got here. Apparently, I was not ready telling our production side in the booth.
Then you're
Try that
breaking
again.
down in
Cut
tears
the
for a
black, just cut
second.
the
I was
black,
like,
run it back.
is it
Just
that
kidding.
good? I didn't hear, I literally just heard you and I thought you were breaking down to tears. Like, that's the action. Oh my man, he's
you ever
invested.
like swallow and then just randomly it's just
Yeah.
like it doesn't go down the right
Yeah.
way right as I intro in. The only other time I've had that happen, Dallas, was for an introduction to a Sony sponsored Sony broadcast, and I thankfully I clutched up there, but I could not figure it out here on this one.
You just play the crying card there. Just keep on riding it out. Just let them know it is an honor to be here, and I will never have an experience like this again.
I'm super excited to have the SEO. My name's Infernosis, joined here by my good friend Mick. We joke, we kid, we also mess up, but specifically me. It's Clemson Orange facing off against Niner Esports. We mentioned previously, both these teams are coming into this one 2-0, so they are looking prime and ready for this one. And hopefully it'll be a lot closer of a series in comparison to the first one we had today, where UAH Blue wiped out UAH White for that civil battle, like you said before. And thankfully, we can already see down at the bottom of our screen, we've got an interesting map coming up. It is still one of the go-to specials, but at least it's not something like Binds. We have to see it twice in a row. The final map is, in fact, Haven.
And even then, I mean, also keep in mind, it only takes 2 rounds to make it a little bit of a closer affair. That first was a little bit of a blowout, sadly, there for the likes of UAH. But I mean, regardless, we're on a new here. We're on a different grazing grounds. And even then, we're also to a completely different group, keep in mind. I mean, that group right there was one that we do see kind of those double headers going away. I think University of Florida also has 2 teams in that meantime. So, I mean, keep in mind here, this is group 2, I believe, where you see these teams obviously kind of go ahead and start to surmount against each other. They're kind of developing things. We're seeing, as we mentioned, these are the kinds of opportunities these programs and universities are working for. They're saying we need to be other universities, other bigger universities, teams that, better yet, are also undefeated. So, I mean, either one of these teams are going to see their first loss of the season, no matter what, right here, right now. And that's really the biggest thing at stakes here. Isn't coming down to whether or not who really wins, but better yet, who's losing more likely than not. And I mean, knowing that both these rosters are starting teams, I mean, they have pretty good programs on their backs, not only just in terms of like bigger esports, but even in smaller esports that have a little bit more niche followings. From my time in Call of Duty, both these teams have a little bit of an actual community there. I mean, they got something here to work with. They have a program. They have rosters, and obviously got the record to show for it. They just got to have the merit to really just follow through right now.
Speaking of merits, these teams may be 2-0, but one of these teams has a little bit of a less understanding of their 2-0, I would say. Maybe it's the way to phrase it. Clemson took their big win against TCU Esports, but they had a DQ victory over Oso, which means they're technically 1-0. They get that victory from the DQ. They're not as tested, so to say, against Niner Esports, who not only took that and have their 2-0, but they won both games in an actual battle against USC Garnet and UTK Esports Gray. This is not me throwing Clemson Orange under the bus or anything. This is not me saying they're the team more likely to lose. But if we're going off a precedent to this stage, Niner Esports has a history. They've already played there too. They warmed up in the SEO. They know what they're doing. And I wish I could see. I wish, I should have opened it in between. That I think about this. I should have opened it in between game 1 and game 2. I was too busy eating my food in between those two. The woes of a caster and choking on my own tongue. Apparently, I want to know who won in their 3 games. Do you have it up here, Dallas?
I'm trying to look for it right now, quite frankly, as you're talking. So I would have liked if you bought me a little bit more.
Oh, sorry. Here, I'll talk about it a little bit more.
I mean, no, it's all good. It's all good. We both get the link. We can both do it. But regardless, I'm kind of on the same page as you. I mean, regardless whether or not they even won or lost that first round, they're going to be warmed up in some degree. I mean, typically these second series do go a little bit better than the first ones, just because it's your first game on for the day with your squad. You're not really hopping in ranked anymore. You're not dealing with all these randos. You're having to say, all right, now we got to worry about synergies. I got to hear 3,000 people and a bajillion different calls going on in the back of my mind. And I'm having to actually like really care about this instead of just knowing that Joe Schmo from Missouri is clutching up for me on the chamber. Meanwhile, we're playing on Sunset and nobody really knows what's going on, that type of beat. So knowing that we're going right back to Haven, a map that has been around since the conception of Valorant. Even then, whenever we saw that the actual announcement for Valorant, like it was what, Project A, I believe they called it or whatever, when we were looking at Roblox textures, it was on Haven. So, I mean, this thing has been around for ages now. I mean, this should be a place that, I mean, both these teams are hopefully bringing some good competition to, knowing that even then we've seen the meta shift over and over again. with this map now and the new agents being introduced, sadly, they're not really having too much of an actual presence anywhere. But I want to see kind of how it's looking for this year because it doesn't really come down oddly enough to metas and to updates too much. Even though we did see a lot of changes in this offseason so far with those ultimate takes, that massive change that we saw recently of like Breach and Viper and Sky, and even then with Astra just now, being able to hear her surroundings. I know Boasts are lurking everywhere with that big pick of his, is just absolutely celebrating that fact. But knowing that I don't think those changes are going to make too much of an impact on Haven, these players and the way that the game kind of shifts and the attitude and the mentality of a lot of these squads really set the pace when the defense or the attacking side looks like it's going to be a lot more prominent for the year.
Because I will take absolutely no blame whatsoever, and that then steps over to the SCL. I definitely don't speak for the company. Neither of those two teams have an updated stat line when it comes over onto start.gg. It still states that Niners just got updated. Wait, Niners literally just updated in that long little tangent you just went on there about agents.
I was trying
They're
to
3-0. They are 3-0. So Niner Esports did in fact win their game just previously. They have proven themselves even further. Clemson Orange has not updated. Maybe they haven't put the tally in. Maybe somebody in the chat that works at the university can just go over there and slap somebody upside the head, and give them the old, hey, why don't you update yourself on the site? Why don't you at Fred? Make sure everyone ats Fred in the Discord so that he does all the work. He's not gonna mind. He's not gonna. It's not like he complains to us in our meetings about.
None of us really want to work, right? We show up and get to talk. We don't have to look at spreadsheets and reach out to people and, baby everybody and hold them by the hands like preschoolers, make sure they're going to where they need to go and do what they need to do.
Yeah.
Don't make them do more than that.
Hey, they're still in school, right? They're still youngins here, Dallas.
So is Fred, right?
Yeah, pretty sure.
Doesn't totally all have our own obligations here? At that point, just have a kid.
You hear that, Fred? Dallas is offering. You hear that, Fred? Dallas is offering.
I'm just giving advice. I will say one's a little bit more expensive.
I mean, that is true. It's like $16K post, like even after like health insurance to have a kid, just for like the operation and everything. It's like $16K. It's ridiculous. It's insane.
You gotta love the States, man.
Who can afford having a child? There are people like straight out of high school, Dash, you see in like your Instagram feed and whatnot, like, I'm married, we bought our house, we have a kid. It's like, who did you rob? Like, how do you have the money to do this?
I'm not getting into political discussion about the price of health insurance.
Oh my goodness.
It's not the place. Esports definitely is. You'll find a crowd for it here, but not on this stream.
This is my house. The SCL right here. This is what I did straight out of high school. That's why I don't talk to anybody from high school, because they would make fun of me. Just look at these colors. I can't see half of them. I'm colorblind. Either way, Dallas always finds it funny. Haven is up on the chopping block. Apparently, we are still relishing in the defeat from UAH just prior. That's the second time we've cut early to a scene. It's still inside the lobby. We're working on it. Like we said, this is the first season here for Valorant for the SEL, and our producer in the background, I think he's crying. I hear sobbing every once in a while.
Keep in mind, so maybe he's trying to secretly, vandalize just to make sure that CS:GO has a better scene, quote unquote.
Choose your agent.
Trying to get the alley up for CS2 coming out.
Wasn't it just posted in our production chat we had the collegiate program game offerings from Esports Foundry? It's Valorant has 79.5% of all collegiate programs have it. Rocket League's an astounding 87.4%. CS:GO is at 8%. My guy, you are losing to Rainbow Six Siege. You are losing to Madden. Also, what university?
That's
what's
fair,
70%
though.
of universities
if your
have
university
Smash
has a
Bros?
fraternity, though, you're going to have Madden players. As a frat boy, I can tell you, there's always a Madden player in those things.
I just big question for me is what's 70% of universities are doing Smash Brothers? Like that's
because they don't run tryouts, so it's just like they're usually like clubs basically. Or just
I guess
show
that's
up.
true.
Do you play Smash? All right, cool. Are you ranked?
You're on the team.
You can just say you're with the school, but if you're ranked, hey, we'll start paying for stuff.
Do you own a Nintendo Switch? No, don't worry. There's one in the lobby.
Do you own a GameCube controller? Just figure
yeah, you're gonna be that guy that shows up with the Switch controller.
Not even the dual Joy-Cons, just the singular one. When it's turned to the side.
He plays up and down. He's really breaking the mold here. My goodness. Speaking of that, though,
Game's here.
In breaking the mold, yeah, we're actually getting a game underway. We really have broken the mold here for the SEL. Jet Tailwind and Updraft in Poco now having no util really to work with, the no life as well. A Seeker managing to get them down with a ghost in hand. That means there's a man advantage now for the side of Niner Esports. While Bum Rush in through Garage could cause problems for Precise, but there's no Precise aiming for the side of Clemson Orange. How many players can miss this one man? It doesn't seem to matter too much though. Clemson have torn apart 3, making 4 in a row. And it's just up tonight to close things out. And they took down Jackson. They got to find 2 more on site after Spike has just gone down.
This is completely doable, keep in mind. I mean, look at the health pools of both these players. You don't really have too much armor on the side of that breach. I mean, that Omen is going to be one shot even from the body, considering how much damage really is done with that ghost, depending on the range that you're looking at. Either 50 health or 35. So, I mean, this is definitely feasible, but considering that breach can be setting up for long, you have to know about this, right? I mean, that fault line is going to give you all the coverage in the world. It's going to get the stuns off that you need, but even then more so, you're going to get some pretty big stuns here. You're just hoping to hide in that smoke, at least get a half off. That's a really good look there to already get yourself the first and knowing the Omen is going to be one shot. You just got to tap that thing down, bait a player out, get the toxic cloud down, and get the clutch that you needed to go ahead and start things off here for Niners.
That is a huge round to start things off. Yes, it's just a pistol, but that sets a tone, Dallas. That is a mental deficit right now for Clemson, who already faced enough problems taking down Precise inside of Garage, but to let an effective 3v1, because Knight did get the final kill as well before that 1v2, an effective 3v1 on the board for Clemson, to let that squeak through their fingertips and give it over to a Viper is beyond, I won't say humiliating, but it is definitely something that is going to humble you guys going into the next few rounds, where you're going to have to look at the overall scenario, the overall myopic scope of how this game on Haven is going to work, and rethink some of those angles you'll work from. They'll play slow here for round 2. It's the right idea. They've left Spike initially behind, which is also the right idea, and they're going to poke and prod at first and foremost in through Garage. A lot of teams like to pressure B in the early rounds, but I think you just got to go into A and C and take control of that Garage and or through A short, because it obviously didn't work previously on that B main rush.
You see a little bit of a split coming through here from the middle of the map and over towards that C side as well, which I find kind of interesting. I'll just consider knowing that maybe then on the second round, either A, you're looking for a little bit of a default to figure out what kind of the map looks like with everything laid out. And I think that's kind of what Clemson's looking for, but even then they're kind of looking for an idea of where somebody's going to slip up. Look for some aggression somewhere so you can kind of slip behind those lines and find yourself a plant on a site, because keep in mind on this attacking side of the map, you're just looking for money. You're just looking to hold that 4 button long enough to even get the spike down in the first place. And I think Clemson has a pretty good idea, and they're looking pretty fortunate to line things up over on this A side. They're going to get all that utility thrown out, but the only thing that's going to be there to really stop them is going to be a raise, and you're not going to see that just being thrown there for absolutely no reason. You're going to stall up, work for that retake, to play off your teammates, and really just work things out to kind of hope for a flawless.
Nice use of the nade there. The paint shells to try and ward off Zuko from the initial plant. Got a lot of damage off in the process. Spike is still being forced away for the time being. Time is not on the side now. Clemson Orange. It's red time taken away. Spike needs to be collected. And the Niners have swung in effectively, pouncing through Seiko with 3 kills to secure. And the Niner Esports side will find a very successful round 2. And they still held on to 3 out of the 5 of the things they forced in that round. It's gonna be a tough round 3. It always is. But like we've said before, getting that 2-round start, getting that 1-round go ahead, which is kind of the expected result if you were to lose round 3, is such a big benefit for your team. Because if you just get 1, just 2, maybe even 3 kills, if you're lucky in this round, you have then swung round 4 in your favor, and it's going to be up to Clemson to decide to force up behind it, or just wait with bated breath and pray that they can do something with the few rifles they have remaining.
Yeah, I mean, already just kind of looking at the inklings of ideas going through here. I mean, Clemson just looking finally for maybe a round that can work out for them. I know they have the rifles, are going to be speeding things up a little bit more so, just like they did in that first round. Trying to look for that garage pressure, leaving the spike back towards that BC link, but doing it even then more so that you got to look around the rest of the map. See what's going to go ahead and really start opening itself up. And we've seen an alarm bot go up there towards A. I like just how they're slowing things down. Finally, a player caught out, 2 off the back of it. You're looking at some pretty big exchanges here working out for Niners. They're probably going to find themselves what could be a 3rd if they just continue that momentum and keep the trades working just like this.
It's a slow and steady game for Niner Esports. They don't need to overextend. They don't need to play for a pick-on-pick game. They've got the advantage. They can just swing effectively in, close down that distance that's being the true beneficiary for Clemson Orange with the weapons they have in hand. Throw in a couple smokes, throw in some assisting utility, close that gap, and spray them down as effective as they can. Spike goes down now here for the side of Clemson Orange, something that they struggled to do in round 2. They managed in round 1, but seeing the result that occurred there, we'll have to see if the same sort of history can be repeated here. But keep in mind, they've got 4 times the amount of players for the Niner Esports side than they had in round 1. And it's still now a man advantage for their side as well. Aldrone goes in to buff the top. Guiding Light to swing in as well. Jackson will swing as quickly as they can, but it is precise still, managing to be missed by every shot sent their way by Epoch. And it's netted a kill in favor for Niner Esports. Down into short A ramp. Jackson finding 2, punishing the side of Niner Esports. And it's just up to Poco. They bought enough time, and the round will be won by Clemson Orange. But my goodness, every single body was felled. And that's a bad look for Clemson Orange, as they will be worrying about the money going into this round on the attack.
No, it's a huge sacrifice, I mean, for that round, just to get yourself on the board, all things considered. I mean, in a round like that, where you're looking for definitive wins, losing 2 players off to get going the opposite side of the map, you playing for a retake already with plenty of rifles to work with, because, I mean, keep in mind, in a situation like that, 2 is plenty. 1 is grateful. 2 is an absolute stack. I mean, you're just graced with the presence of even having those to work with in the meantime. But, I mean, knowing that even in the exchanges, you're not playing for those further ranges, you're just not really playing for that post plant, you're doing it for the 2-1 stack, for that Omen under. You gotta keep in mind, they have Spectres. They have Stingers. They have close quarter guns. The Sheriff found the kill. You can't play into that, and already we're seeing these kind of mistakes slip up a little bit. But, I mean, it's okay. You're seeing a little bit of a retaliation here already out of Niner Esports. Capitalizing off what they got. Clemson can't really find the aggression to really close things out. That 1 burst, or 3 bursts, now to 2 bursts, is going to find at least one of those kills in the meantime to make sure to get some exchanges here. But knowing that in a 3v3 scenario, Clemson, they're the ones that just are getting knocked down like dominoes, but still in a very feasible spot of 1v2.
This is definitely collectible, especially with the fact that Epoch trades out the judge they had brought into this round, did get them a very successful first kill, but you want a rifle for that distance. The From the Shadows is on the board. They'll step onto the spike. They'll be cleared away, but it's been collected and it's been rushed to that A site very effectively by Epoch. That's going to be, I would say, almost half of that Spike's lifetime now, Dallas, that will have been ticked away by the time that these 2 players for Niner Esports will get there. If you know it's an Omen, you know it's an Omen going into round 4, 5, or 6, and they've been successful to this point, you would stand on Spike. You can block that From the Shadows from actually being able to grab that Spike. It's a little bit more difficult, but at least it's something there. Paint shells go out. Epoch rips down to 52 HP. They did get the kill, but Sika! What a shot to take down Epoch before a chance was given for that shrouded step. The round falls to Niner Esports. The defuse easily there for them. 14 seconds remaining, and man, what a round for them on the defense.
And just look at the bottom of the screen where you saw it there. I mean, Rigoro, Trailblazer, another Guiding Light, Seekers to work with. I mean, everything on the board there for the likes of Sika. So, I mean, there is a lot of potential to just kind of make that round work out to your favor, knowing that you got a lot more crowd control, keep in mind. I mean, what are you going to do? Smoke the bomb, and at that point, you're having to spray through, and you're giving the element of surprise over to the advantage of Niner Esports. I mean, it's just these Omen situations that are really unfortunate. First one to look good, second one just not as, relevant there. But all things considered, Clemson, they now have themselves another bye round to work with in terms of sheriffs, unfortunately. But, I mean, knowing that even then, these rounds have to start culminating for them. They have to start looking for some presence. They really got to start opening up this map and looking for some cracks. And it seems like Niner Esports is the first to the cut every single time. Not only just shots like that down the middle, but even then, finding some nice aggression. Knowing these kind of presence, playing off this utility and working with this information, and always having an immediate answer ready to go off the back of it.
Getting a first blow like this for Niner Esports is big, especially considering that Clemson aren't really rocking the best weapons. They need to close that space, that gap, as effectively as possible, and do so without giving up as many players as possible. Worst case scenario, you get spiked down and get a bit of extra credits in your pocket and you play for the next round with a loss. The best case scenario is to remove a couple more players in the process and use that as a chance to give yourself, your team, a chance here in this round. Spike goes down. Dark cover will be placed up inside of Heaven. With the kill from Poco over in towards Hall, it does open up the option for that rifle to be collected, but they fell back too soon. A bit worried about the fact the secondary play was going to come in after the fact, and that wasn't the case. But the showstopper was the scariest factor for Bay Susie Fan. It goes off into no man's land as Knight steals the kill just a moment prior. Jackson's going to play for the Hunter's Fury here in range, but too much time is still left on the board, and they're gonna have to swing immediately after the fact. It's just gonna get defused outright as Precise walks down long ramp, rips down 2 men, and the Clemson side will fall short here in this round.
Yeah, I mean, just once again, another round of work within the advantage of Niner Esports. I mean, you see the ultimate being whipped out, but you don't have enough player presence really back that up. So, I mean, unfortunately, for the side of Clemson, things aren't looking too hot in a 4-1 start. Niner Esports are just kind of rolling things along here. I mean, they're looking to have full control of this game. Their level of aggression out the back of their utility is just outstanding, I think is the best way to put it. But knowing that even more so that they're just kind of accumulating resources over the course of this game, and they're not really being put into scenarios where they're forced to use it. Keep in mind, round 5 in the UAH game, that's where we saw the first ultimate go underway. We saw the round 4 Hunter's Fury come through, but Niner Esports, ones with the lead, they can honestly afford to pop maybe 2 of these, and they'll have them back once again to just kind of go ahead and shut down this Blade Storm if possible.
Cover going out.
Slow push right now from Clemson. They're going to set up their utility first and foremost. A dark cover placed deep into the A-long side. Just trying to knock off the majority of ramp there. The width of that dark cover can't get the most of the haul in the first place, but you want to use that brick stack to your advantage. Bladestorm up for Poco, like you mentioned. This will be a very important way to save a little bit of eco on top for that Clemson orange side. Make sure you have a little bit of extra credits in the back pocket when the remainder comes through. They bought nothing to supplement it as well. They're clear over towards brick stack. Heaven is the question and the place to be right now for the side of Niner Esports. They stuck base Susie fan up top there. They've also got players at the waiting over here towards both sides of Link, one inside garage window, one over on that A side Link, making sure that B can't be snuck through in the later stages once a rush comes through on C or A. I want to make sure there's no flanking position because that's where you start to see kills be given for free. And it's the KJ's responsibility right now for Clemson Orange, and that's a lot of emphasis to put on a single player, especially a player that doesn't have the utility that really warrants fragging like that in a 1v1.
I mean, just slow and steady here. Obviously, you can tell the Clemson a very big deal we've seen prior, but I mean, all things considered, you're waiting for this utility. They were kind of waiting for a big break to get every single piece of utility down at the same exact time, but man, have they waited on that. We already saw a big stall come through earlier, just going ahead and denying that plant last time. They're not going to do it this time, I feel too much, but maybe it is going to be a very close margin. Already, you're losing so many players in the meantime, just trying to get that off, but it's Niner who is getting a lot of these players cut down. That raid up in heaven got picked off. Every single other player of Niner Esports just going ahead and being picked off by a lurker around the map. But speaking of lurks, Seek coming in for a flank, trying to make that close off happen. It's just not going to open up.
It's only an Ishar left standing, and that's a 1v4. A very solid round from Clemson. They didn't make a lot of impact there with the Blade Storm, but everything else worked perfectly. If you're seeing a lot of your attacking positions fall short because you're losing gunfights, a great way to put gunfights in your favor is to play slower. It's to force Niners to question what angle needs to be held. It's to make it so that it's a lot harder to rotate players in time for different sites. And it's to play as slow as you can when you swing in so that you're playing off of an angle that is attempting to be swung by Niner just prior, coming immediately right before or after, like we saw just there on short ramp for Jackson and Sika, and catch them off guard. Because I think from what we've seen so far here in this series, Niner Esports seem to be clinically more talented with the shots. We've especially seen that when they're trying to take down Precise, who they have seemingly missed pretty much every chance they've had against them. But Clemson Orange have strategy. They have multiple ways. They're a multifaceted team. The book is thick. They just need to use a little bit more of it here. And speaking of that thickness, Precise comes in. No call out from the flank! Are you kidding me, Clemson? What is going on? They were shot. Precise took damage. And somehow it's not called in time, and Clemson hemorrhage the players inside garage. It's up to Epoch and your solo with Spike to carry the rest of this round. And it does get to a 3v2, but it's still absolutely horrendous what just went down inside Haven Garage.
No, it was definitely taking the boys out back and put them in the garage type situation. I mean, already just going ahead, knocking them down clean one by one, knowing that even then you can't really recover from something like this unless you just find yourself a near flawless round. I mean, you're going to sit in the back of spawn here. You got 3 ultimates just kind of shutting you down. As soon as that spike goes off, you can afford the Seekers here. But instead, we're popping them preemptively. We're waiting for the information around the map to see where exactly they're going with this, and that's going to give every single tail to let you know, They can go right through B for free. No Seeker splitting off right now. They're going to be going and shooting off over towards that A side, splitting right there into lobby. And with 16 seconds left on the clock, it's a guaranteed push here for this A side. For the set, we're seeing a little bit of a split, not a just kind of a together play here. You're not working for numbers. You're working for a lurk, and it may just exactly happen. But as I mentioned earlier, that Astra, you can hear things go off, but you can't really see too much. When even then, especially trade up your teammate once they're down for the count. So in a 2v2 scenario, this is doable, but man, it's going to be a close cut.
Players are hiding inside of the Viper's pit. Epoch up top and above. It'll be very difficult to see their feet. They're just above the stack. It's not going to matter, though. Knight will let it drop and take down the Omen of Epoch. They'll just stick now for the defuse. Jackson will have to swing as fast as possible. They get the thing. Just fire through.
Ready. Yeah.
Thank God that the Cosmic Divide was there. They had to use every ultimate they had left in that 3v2. Honestly, I think that's still a win for Clemson Orange from how much was having to be utilized from that Niner Esports side. So much off the board for them. The only thing left is the lockdown. And because we saw that shutdown come down, what, 3 rounds prior, and it didn't find any success, it's still not back on the board. They really have the better position now coming into this round, but everyone has rifles, everyone has armor, everyone has kit, and there's 3 dang ultimates on the board to work with.
Well, that round is only as good as Clemson can really make it, keep in mind. I mean, in these situations, I said that, Niner could go ahead and afford a couple of those ultimates to be burnt out. In the meantime, it's pretty early inside this half. They can still get themselves a second round of those to work with in this half. And then to guarantee themselves a round like that is pretty critical. I mean, consider that now you're sitting at 5-2. If Clemson can capitalize off that, find themselves some ultimate usage in this round and say, look, we found the exchange, completely mitigate what you did, then it's going to be an even situation. No matter what, Niner has the advantage off the back of that round. And I mean, that's really what they're going ahead and keeping themselves a foot up. But knowing that now they're kind of working around this map, I'd love to see their garage presence again and again and again. They have an idea, but they've always been cut short by it. Either just by pure means of execution or just by whether by guns or by utility. And every single time it feels like they get caught out. That alarm bot has not been put around that area. It has already been shut down. And you haven't really had the backup there in the meantime to go ahead and look for that even exchange. We've seen immediate retakes every single time there. But instead, we're going for a long approach. We have no turret there to get that information. You're working purely off your eyes and ears alone, and that's just not enough to go ahead and hold down the C site. So you're playing for a retake. And, well, with that shutdown available, it's more than possible to do that. But with the Rolling Thunder shutdown from the shadows on the side of Clemson, this post plan, I think, is going to look pretty darn good for them.
It's going to be difficult, though, if we see the Clemson side fall back all the way towards C long, as there is no one holding an angle, a flank round, a wraparound from the Niner Esports side to work in through hay, work through garage. Maybe if they can clear out the KJ that is static inside garage holding down that window door, it'd be an available option, but they're just going to go straight through, take as many of the gunfights as they can straight forward and try their best. There goes the Rolling Thunder. That gives Jax a freebie kill on it precise. Something the team has struggled with previously. The swing to C-Cobb, a Bay Susie fan gets that refrag back. And how do they sneak that defuse when they are holding long? And Clemson Orange needs to learn where they plant that spike and where that lineup is going to be for the takedown. That's an unfortunate round to give up to Niner Esports. That is something they're going to really regret.
I mean, when you've already put that Rolling Thunder, I mean, it's one of those situations where even then, you talk about that round, once again, these ultimates have to work for Clemson to go ahead and say, look, that round was worth it. The round prior, you're finding these even exchanges. You're making sure to get yourself on the board. You're finding these rounds back and forth for it. That's 1/3 of the problem already gone away there for the side of Niner. They said, look, that's one ultimate. We guaranteed a round off the back of ours. They didn't even find one off there. So, I mean, that's huge. That's 1/3 from the shadows. Not really going to have the impact you want. Nearly trying to clutch one time, but just close enough for it to really go ahead and say, look, not close enough. Shutdown is the only thing you got to work with here. And every single round these things sit around, they're just not finding impact. You talk about impact, we're seeing that come through in the guns. These Niner players, they've already found themselves two. And even exchange for only one for your Rays, who is already on site. So what retake are you really playing here?
Oh my goodness. Clemson struggling to find their way into this round in the first place. They get a freebie kill, but it's only an equal trade. They lost a player in the middle side of that A-long, and they lost a player trying to swing in through short ram. Tasmanian Tiger goes out. Information game is winning right now for the Niner Esports side, but Clemson still have their Sova. It's a recon bolt, an owl drone. That's information that could feasibly be there if it hasn't already been expunged. And if it has, man, it's going to be hard pressed here, Dallas. You got to find out where these players are on A. You got to find out where these players could be on B and C, specifically where your team is currently rotating towards. No way to hold C long here. The Astro will keep you at bay. It's a bum rush to B. I think this may be the smartest play they have. If it wasn't for the fact that Precise is locking it down, the util is there, and it's just a matter of swinging, and they do exactly that. Suko dusted. Sika taking down Epoch. It's just Jackson, and they do fine too. But the time is not on their side. Spike is away from them. They have to take an angle that's going to be easily viewable from Link towards A and from middle of B. Jackson goes to the kill!
Why are you fighting?
Hey! Clemson, how do you get away with that? Pat Jackson on the back. This dude just carried.
The double down on the players. You're working for the exchange there, but I mean, that's not what you're worried about. You know, clock was already ticking. It was a last second go for the plant. You have one player go for that shot and get him off the plant. That is all you need in that situation, but Clemson makes a very, very frantic read. They find themselves holding the kills. Niner are just discombobulated for a second and couldn't really find that closure. Surprising considering what we've seen this team do in this game thus far. It seems like every move they made is calculated and just you find these slip-ups at points like that. So, I mean, you got to take advantage of the moment, right? You got to capitalize off this in every single inch you can. Turn these centimeters to absolute miles if possible because you have 100 sphere to work with as well. This can be a pretty sufficient C push. Knowing you found the presence in garage, you found the kill in long. You just got to push up right now and make the most off of this.
Poco hiding within cover. Right now for the side of Clemson, they have that man advantage, but danger still is arising as the fact they don't have control yet over the site entirely. A flank coming in from Knight. This could be the best play so far from Knight in the day, and it will be.
Oh my God.
Crimson ripped down at the seams. Now with the man disadvantage, Boomba coming through, and Poco forced to bite the rocket from Bay Susie fan, leaving Zuko all by their lonesome. A double swing, they lined up, but Zuko can't get that click, and Niner Esports will make up for the demoralizing loss that came the round prior.
With how expensive bullets are nowadays, that was such great value you could have had right there. I mean, that is just, every time I see that, my entire body tenses because I've seen too many players make mistakes like that, where they get to points where they're just saying, we're playing dominoes, not Valorant anymore, and it's just a wild saying. But I mean, regardless, at the end of the day, Niner Esports able to close out that round once again, had the player advantage, made sure to get the exchanges off that were necessary, and obviously Knight being a big catalyst to that alone. Instead of get 12-5 now in the game, being that respected top fragger, he said it on the first round. It's kind of embarrassing to dial Vipers. I could argue if it's not, it doesn't really matter all that much. Because dying to a deadlock in a clutch scenario is a heck of a lot more embarrassing because of her pick right now.
Poco. Bit of a cheaper option for the team, but I think for Clemson, you got to bring up basically everything that's still left. There's not much on the board for your roster. Just buy as much of a buy here, play for the next, and just pray because you're running into the final stages here of this half. And Niner Esports not only have guaranteed an equal position at halftime, but they've gone positive at the very least. And it's looking like it very could well be an 8-4 split. Since Clemson have not much to work with in this round, it'll be a difficult buy to come back and win it. But anything is truly possible. Epoch will use that toxic screen as a way to step further up inside ramp, but the Tasmanian Tiger spots them out, and Epoch's position will be needed to be vacated quickly. As the snakebite comes forward, it's just enough to tag. It is. Epoch takes way too much damage there, Dallas. For free, it seems. And they're forced to use, I think, their ultimate to get out of it. Yep. Epoch wide. I guess the Shrouded Step was gone on CD. No chance for it. That is a rough way to go about it, and Clemson will have to pick in for a new option, this time towards C through Garage.
Gotta consider a buy for a round like this. I mean, sure, you said 8-4, but even then, I mean, you're looking at 8-4 at least. I mean, I'm thinking 9-3 more than likely. Consider the buys, the ultimate's at hand. You're not really forcing your hand here with so many picks already just coming out successfully without even really having to invest anything with the Seekers and the lockdown coming through as well, already in a 4v1 scenario. They're not looking to save ultimates, but good God, are they saving the guns.
It's a great play for Niner Esports. Oh, you can't ask for a more clean finish, especially when Clemson were prowling around for so darn long. The danger is always present. You have to respect the individuals at the other end of the rifles, at the other end of the pistols, it seems, for Clemson in that stance as well. Anything can happen, and Niner realized that. That's how you can tell a great team from a good team, the amount of respect they hold from the opposition. Anyone can, you know, send a couple messages, GG no re, lol after a kill. Gotcha, nice shot, whatever you want to do for toxicity. I don't think nice shot's necessarily that toxic, but I'm a Widow main. What would I know?
Great save.
But you have to be respectful, not just in game, because I think we have a rule about that. I don't know, ask Fred. But in terms of understanding the lines of sight here, because yes, I think Niner Esports are clinically more talented right now for aiming, but Clemson have shown. Talk to Jackson. Talk to that round just 4 rounds prior and tell me you can't respect what Clemson have been bringing to the board.
I mean, they always have ideas. Problem is the execution. That's where the real problem really lies. I love the ideas, the guide roadmaps. They have an idea of how they want to play this map out, but where they really start to kind of really falter and fall a little bit slow is the actual presence of these rounds. Getting into a space where they can actually make a play, because once everything kind of connects, we keep in mind that A site hit that we saw kind of go off last second. The C hits once they get themselves in the garage. I mean, everything looks like it starts to connect here and really just kind of piece itself. But I mean, when that just doesn't happen, you're at a loss. And speaking of a loss, you may lose a player. You didn't see Knight get out of there just with a mere second left. All these players, they're going to take some damage in the meantime. You're going to make sure to get these picks off into the decay as soon as it goes off. There it is.
Slow and steady typically has been the idea for Clemson, but look at what they've been trying to do here. A bit of a rush, and it's caught them off guard. This may be a flawless round result for Niner Esports. I said an 8-4 was very much so possible, and they have turned that on its head and made me eat dirt. This isn't high school. This isn't middle school. You can't bully me like this anymore. And right now, they're bullying Clemson. It's a bit rough for Ware. Clearing out the util on site. It's just Poco all by their lonesome. Jets can do anything, but this seems almost impossible. Spike going down. Time is there. The rush comes in 2 from main, but it's all but over. Base Susie fan will not acquiesce another kill to the side of Clemson, and it will be a 9-3 halftime score. And that is a tough one to come back from, but if there is one to do it, Dallas, it is the cursed scoreline itself.
Switching sides.
And it's on this defensive side of the map as well. I mean, Clemson, they haven't really had the best executions, as I mentioned, actually getting on these sites on the attacking side. But what did they already have the sites? But they have control of them already, and they just got to set things up preemptively. It comes down to the KJ. This is a half the year support. So really need to step things into high gear, and even more so your controllers have to start showing some prominence. And when you look at the likes of an Astra and a Viper against, you know, the double initiator typically that we see out of the Breach and the Sova, Niner, I mean, they have definitely made the substitution valid to say that we didn't take the breach here for a reason. A lot of teams like to take those breaches 9 times out of 10 for a map like this with these very long entryways. You look at it, this man has 3 trillion fault lines that find impact on this map. But I mean, knowing that an asterisk does just as much, your double controllers can just go absolutely ballistic so long as you have an idea of what sight lines to cut off and what you kind of have more of an actual home ground for in terms of where your crosshair placement is. They're nailing those shots, and they're showing it doesn't matter.
Right now, when you're back into the pistol round, Clemson need to set the tone. They need to take this round. They need to use that as a way to statically bring their scoreline higher and higher. I highlighted earlier just how important it feels that the pistol round can be. Gives you that go-ahead in round 1. It's usually tied up in round 3. Gives you 1 ahead, but as long as you do have enough damage, round 4 is almost going your way. So that's a 2 to 3 round buffer you gain early. That could be one of the reasons why we see Niner Esports being so dominant in this series so far. That couple round buffer. But I think from what we've seen now, so we can pretty much say Niner Esports have had a pretty dominant control of this series. And I don't think it's from those little leads they got early on in this one. It does truly feel like it could have been 10-2 if it wasn't for that Jackson play we saw come through inside that B site. That's just how close Clemson have wanted to keep it and how far Niner has put it out of their hands. And he's Shark going for the plant here on the B side for a pistol round. You got to be a little bit greedy, and they're doing so quite well. Poco will step through, but they're completely blind. They'll have to go for some shots.
Oh my God.
Zuko may just save the day.
Zuko.
Left here, Knight going around the corner.
That's
Zuko will steal it. My goodness, the last time I mentioned Zuko was that horrible Avatar film, and I'm glad I have something good to wash that over in my mind.
Zuko saving Poco's life more times than you can really count right there. It felt like over and over again. Dude was panicking. You could see it in the crosshair placement. He was flicking and clicking like there was nothing left to lose. But I mean, you get a player right there hitting every single shot necessary. So I mean, for Niners to once again kind of find themselves at an unfortunate state. This is now where when Clemson, these pistol rounds really have to surmount to something. We saw the good start. We saw the clicks going away there towards the A side. They obviously know where these crosshair placements we need to take when they're the ones holding the angle. And I think a Bulldog's can be a pretty good supplement to that. I think, honestly, that gun, having 2 now on the board rather than forcing out a rifle anywhere, just kind of seeing what you can get done with this, is going to be pretty darn sufficient, I would say. But it comes down to how do you take advantage of it, because you're going to see some overwhelming numbers here, maybe inside Garage, with Jax waiting with the Spectre, hoping that alarm bot goes off for an easy swing.
Jax has the chance here. Trying to pull a precise, but unfortunately, no players were allowed to step through, and no kills were allowed to be gained for Jax either. It's just about creating a buffer, though, against that Niner Esports side that is poking and prodding inside Garage. That's kept them at bay. That smoke going down as well. Anything to slow down that methodical push in through Garage is exactly what the Clemson side are looking for, especially when they know they're at limited options and they have to play smart here. They have the range advantage coming into this one with the weapons they have in tow. Zuko sitting farther back, Bulldog in hand. He needs to fall back quickly. Will be able and allowed to do so. But Niner Esports have so much utility with this Viper to dump out into Link and give the space for Anishar to go for the plant. Anishar may just stick it, but Zuko, the util goes off just in time. And Knight will move away from the initials plant spot and go for the Link side, the Cubby side instead, making it harder to defend it from long, defend it from courtyard, and make the matters worse. Poco, the knife fight base and wins it, and Zuko gets 4 in the round. You thought 3 was big, make it 4. What is going on in Clemson's defense?
Speaking of 3, that's a round 3 ultimate, by the way, coming out from Clemson on this side. So, I mean, that's going to be a Rolling Thunder to work with there for a retake. So long as you hear that spike going down, you can immediately make a play to look for an exchange. They don't carry over that second Bulldog into the next round, which is a little bit unfortunate. I think they were kind of looking for it, didn't really find it. But, I mean, all things considered, I mean, you're happy with it ultimate. That's going to be something that can really find some effect here if you just get that opener. I think, quite frankly, if you find the opportunity, I say burn it. Just because, I mean, look at these players. They are investing into this round. They have belief that they can still make something out of this, knowing that if they shut this down, this could be 3 in a row. It's going to completely shut down Niner Esports economy, make that a 4th. I mean, it's just going to be back to back to back after that absolute domino effect that really just gives them what could look like a tie game almost instantaneously. But it comes down once again to the opportunity cost. You've got to make this work. Otherwise, this next round is going to look nearly as good, and you'll find Niner not hitting 10, but hitting 11.
Poco falling back as quick as possible for Clemson. They want to keep that player count up as much as they can, especially knowing the fact that the rifles are going to be up for the Niner Esports side. Bit over aggressive from Base Susie fan, but the paint shell gets a kill. And it allows for Precise and Anishar to swing forward with a little bit less pressure barreling down towards them. Looks like Niner may just be primed and ready to take this round in tow. With a spike having gone down and only 2 players to fight off against them, it's going to be hard pressed for Epoch to find any success here. And the same thing can be said for the KJ working in from Hall. Both have been smoked off. Both have to wait the full time ticking down. And it may just be a battle here, Dallas, of just trying to remove another rifle out of the hands of Niner Esports. The KJ will swing out of the smoke. Seacos sees them first, and now goes Jackson. It's just Epoch up in heaven remaining. The Sheriff connects for 2 up to the stage. This round is expensive, and Epoch had a chance, but it does not matter. Niner Esports will win and survive, but my God, was it the most costly way to do it?
Yeah, some level of equilibrium in a round like that's pretty good, all things considered. When you look at what Clemson was investing into a round like that, they make sure to kind of come out on the good looks of it, considering what was at stake there. So knowing they still have a purchase, Jackson doesn't really have one to work with, but I mean, now an operator on the board for Poco. Zuko still has that Rolling Thunder to work with. Epoch, not really worried about that from the shadows, but can still find some level of effect, and maybe a retake, kind of getting that easy information to play with, knowing that, I mean, your Sova could die if that's the side that they push. There's all kinds of factors that could take place, but it comes down even more so to these first bloods. You're looking for some courthouse control, and I just don't know if that's going to come underway. Some missed shots, but a little bit of information is all you're asking for.
Smoke's being set up right now for the Clemson Orange side. Just trying to buy themselves a little bit of breath. For Niner, they're trying to lock down away from the garage window, where Base Susie fan had already been able to swing forward very quickly with a boost pack to assist. Sorry, haven't used the boost. They just snuck straight in. Wow, that's a bit cheeky from them. Plays coming in, though. Jax is going to be maybe the first player to have to fight off against Base Susie fan. Holding a little bit farther back, making no noise. Shoulder been spotted, and while Bay does get a shot towards them, it doesn't hit the head. And Jax will find themselves with that first blood in this round to give Clemson the best possible odds coming into this one. Smoke goes down on long. The call out has been made. 2 players at minimum down, working in on this rush. And the first player to swing out, the second will go down. Epoch running out of ammo for the last third. And it's CCAW to clean up for the kill, but it is a 2 versus 4 with a collective 40 HP in total for the Niner Esports side. And that's dropped now just to 14, and the spray is wild and rabid. Clemson Orange get their 6th.
In these rounds again and again and again. I mean, Niner Esports, sure, you're looking at that 10, but I mean, no team is really concerned about 10. If you look at the trends, you look at how these players work, and even more so how these games go underway, 10 doesn't really mean anything. Double digits, sure, it's something to brag about. It's a bigger number at the end of the day, but it doesn't really surmount to too much because these last 3 rounds is where the pressure really starts to put itself down. You can't play for the long game anymore unless you're going to be sacking rounds, and a lot of teams don't really want to do that. Understandably, you're looking to close things out, and you're forcing up these rounds over and over and over again until you're forced into a corner and know that you just really can't purchase anymore. You can't do anything else. So you just kind of are working with what you got, and you're working this kind of flip-flop scenario of a buy, no buy, buy, no buy, and Clemson can really just work off that because we're seeing them just hold these angles very, very efficiently, really getting out the necessary kills here. And that last round, it really came down to Epoch with that double kill, just holding on C, making sure it was slow and getting the damage necessary. And Jax is doing that same exact thing here with Epoch here for the backup. They're just closing this thing off. They're setting up shop, just not really giving up the space, and even then, more so, they have been the only 2 players to find kills in this round. There's only 1 more remaining. These 2 could find a buddy ace just to close this thing out. It is an eco, but still, it's impressive knowing that they're just developing ultimates off the back of this.
Honestly, Niner Esports, the entire play we've seen, flawless result coming out from Clemson with Pogo finishing. Everything we've seen from Niner Esports shows that on the attack, they have no idea how to safely push this C defense for Clemson. They try going a stack in through C long. They just bite the immediate bullet from Epoch, watching in from back plat. No one is holding that crossfire. The player that swings closer to Radiantite's stack needs to be cubbying there to take down that plat player and playing for a 1-for-1 trade, and they're coming out staggered. Niner Esports can shoot straight, but they can't work together right now when it comes to their attack. I think they need to forfeit their chances on C, play for B and A, and hope for the best. Yes, B has been tough. Clemson has denied you, but the A side has been fairly nice for you, especially when Precise does exactly what their name implies and clicks down the op player. The jet for the side of Clemson Orange. They had no chance to fight back there, and the rush comes down to the A sites, where Clemson, yes, have the lockdown, have the util, the Rolling Thunder to kind of retake this site, but there's even more util for Niner. The Cosmic Divide alone in the lockdown could deny so many options for that.
Man, I love that aftershock. Those changes from that triple burst to that
Huge.
2 burst where it just does so much more damage. I mean, these teams, keep in mind, forever have had an idea of saying we can at least get this plan down. We can kind of stall it out. Not anymore. That's not the case. I mean, it is instantaneous, just like the shots coming through here for this kind of follow-up off the back of this round. Niner had gotten every single shot nailed, is what it seems like, and already Epoch getting on site from the shadows immediately to follow up off that lockdown. To get that information, have a buddy that can be shot, but that corner plant is absolutely deadly. And with only 2 players to hold on to it, I quite frankly don't think you're going to have this at the end of the day. The timer's going off. You have a showstopper to close things up. And I mean, even then, just throw a body on top of it just to kind of add that punctuation to the sentence, because this sentence is closed as with the rest of the round, hitting now 11 here for Niner Esports. 3 ultimates to work with here just to find themselves maybe 1 more to guarantee match point, or even then, if they find it pretty efficiently and you don't really have your hand force, that could be just the entire game closed up, just locked out.
Great result for Niner Esports. Moving back over to the A side has been working out for them. I think we'd probably expect to see that again, or a play in through B to work through that link side on A instead. I just think if they were to go back to C, they'd be falling short, but they don't necessarily need to. They dominated the A side. They play well on B, And the defense for Clemson has seemed insurmountable on the C objective purely because of Epoch. A missed opportunity for both sides. As a reswing comes out from Poco after the first miss, they'll sit up on top of Stack, forced away once again, and that's pretty much all of the util available for Poco already expunged. And a huge showstopper from Bay Susie fan. They've gone nearly silent. This whole series so far with the ult has gotten 1 kill prior to this round and is now tripled that margin with that single shot back the other way. Knight will hide just outside of the hallway door, cutting down Jax. 5 players still remain. The paint shells warding off Zuko as fast as they can. And Bay Susie fan goes to meet them, but stunned first and foremost. An interesting ordeal, but Zuko's still down to 25 HP, where Precise has no problem getting rid of them. And what a shot from Knight! They're not even in the Viper's pits! Epoch has no idea what just happened. And it is a match series point right now for Niner Esports.
I'm just going ahead, closing out, guaranteeing that match point. That's the avenue that we see Niner Esports willing to take. And can you really blame them? Look at the ultimates. When you look at the economy, when you look at the way these kind of utility and these kits are playing for here, you're saying no matter what, so long as we only invest 2, we have a third to work off of that caused a divide. They only have a rolling thunder, and they blundered that in that first half. So what are they going to do in a situation like this? What are they going to do as a backup here? Because, I mean, it's not really working out for them. Well, quite frankly, we're looking even game here where we have economy advantage, round advantage. Everything's kind of working out for our favor. And we're even in 2 pips off for 2 more of our players to get an ultimate to work off of as well. I mean, and the likes of that lockdown, those seekers. So, I mean, this is good lookings here from the side of Niner Esports. Better yet, Clemson, they can get some pretty good opportunity out of this. But you got to find these bloods. You can't let players fall for no reason. And they've done exactly that in Kentucky Control C.
This has not been a good showcase so far for the Clemson side. And apparently there's a lot of people that don't have a lot of confidence in them either. Already on Start.gg, it's been marked that Clemson has taken a loss against Niner Esports. I don't know who updated that, but game's not done, job's not done either. Niner Esports have plenty of chances to mess up and give Clemson the odds to go into OT and win this one out. Don't curse them out of this series just yet. Poco will swing in from the flank. A great chance for Clemson to kind of clap back into it, but Bay Susie fan not in the corner that Poco was expecting. Does get the hallway play and frags right back to equalize things up though with Zuko. Bay Susie fan down in hall. Good call out coming out from Poco just moments prior. And while the spike is down for Niner Esports, the rolling thunder keeps them at bay. The whirlpool though will decide it. Precise to secure. Perfect play in tandem. And Niner Esports out of nowhere finds success. Huge success here, Dallas. On the C side, something they struggled with their entire attacking half.
Yeah, it just seems like over and over again. I mean, we're just kind of going back to that C site, that A site, looking to see what we can get on both sides of the map. But I mean, it's just not really surmounted much on that attacking side. Already, I mean, looking at what Clemson was doing there. As I mentioned, I loved what they had in terms of execution there. I love the ideas that were starting to surmount. I love the pressure they were looking for to the map. I mean, just every single place they were kind of pushing, you could tell they're saying, all right, let's get set up for something. Let's try to get something going together. But it kind of had this R6 flow to it. It's like, okay, let's do everything at once. Let's get it all in breach onto the site. You can't really do that. You're not going to find these opportunities. It's one of those teams that like to kind of go ahead and execute off of theoretical perfects. And that's just not really going to happen too much. You have to find these ways to kind of lay things out. Your shots aren't always going to land. You're going to find these teams that are shooting better than you, cutting you off, find these aggressions, and even better yet, once they find the lead, those aggressions get multiplied exponentially. I mean, they just aggress over and over and over and over again. They'll look for these first bloods. They'll back up and they'll say, all right, that's one piece of the puzzle already missing. And you were already struggling in the first place. Meanwhile, Niner, great work by them. I mean, just straight up holding things down, showing that obviously the win today earlier was, I mean, warranted. They seemed hot. They seemed ready. They were looking to go. And that's exactly what they did. Their attacking side, beautiful to start things off. I mean, obviously those first 2 rounds, things were looking expensive for them. They lost the rounds they were kind of supposed to, but even then they were making them expensive at every single turn. And they knew that, okay, we can invest things for no reason early on, knowing that we have an advantage. We can kind of capitalize off that. I'm loving this new look from a lot of collegiate teams where I'm seeing these early ultimate investments when they know they're up, because it's refreshing. It's one of the biggest things that was playing the collegiate scene. I'm hoping not only just in this league, but just in general, everywhere, that these coaches are starting to say, press your X button. Because it works. It opens up these opportunities. And even then, if you know that you have the upper hand, keep in mind that one ultimate you get early go ahead and use it. Because guess what? They're still not going to have one in this round or the next if it's round 3. And you're going to have 4 by the time that they have 5. You're probably going to get a kill before they get one of those off. And it feels like a 4v4 still.
I think another thing to point out when you're talking about using those ultimates as fast as possible, you can really tell when collegiate players are coming from CSGO, right? Where there is no ultimate button. They completely forget they have it, right? You don't want to be told that you're coming from CSGO. You don't want to have that evil spoken to you. Be the player that pops that ultimate. Be the player that steps ahead and changes the game. Yeah, I came from Overwatch. We've got ultimates. We've got setups. I'm from League of Legends. I mean, that's just as bad, but at least it's a Riot game as well, right? Yeah. You're in the same ecosystem. You got to pop those early, and I really loved what we saw in that entire series. Mistakes happen across both teams. Southeastern Esports made a lot of mistakes with refragging. They made a lot of mistakes stepping out to sea. Really great plays from Clemson, like I mentioned, with their smokes. They're working in tandem on that site. They just didn't have the same prowess, and I think I don't want to say they're winning on Cs from Epoch just being an absolute menace on that site and just being the best player for Clemson, it seemed like, in that series, besides Jackson's big clutch on their attack. But it did seem like that. Epoch and Jackson, by far, for Clemson, they look amazing. They are so dang good on that team. The rest of the team just needs to kind of let them do their thing and fill in those shoes when they go down and say, hey, the job's not done. We got a good one, but we also got good players right behind them to step into those shoes when they get emptied. But my goodness, did Niner Esports look good, and they will now move on to a 4-0 start. They are the team to beat right now going into the next week of SEL here for Valorant. But make sure you guys stay tuned. We're not done just yet in the season. We got plenty more to go ahead of us. And coming up next week, we have more Rocket League on Wednesday. Hopefully back with Foof and Bepic in the booth. And then it'll be me and Dallas here once again, closing things out on Thursday for more Mal. Make sure you guys stay tuned. We'll see you guys next week when things get started.
I'm so happy, I can't lie, mesmerized by you.